The Chiefs are looking to get to the bye week undefeated, and they have Derek Carr standing in their way. Let's talk about it.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Wednesdays are Matter Days here on KC Sports Network. This is the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our incredible partners in Possible. I am Matt Swanson here with Matt Lane and Matt Hamilton. And Hamilton, I do need to talk to you about something really quick before this show starts. So we were sharing our photos of our Costco, our Costco photos as one, as bros do. And if I remember correctly, you had some kind of Yankees attire on while you were taking that photo. I am not sure we're going to be able to do a show together next week.
Yeah, it's gonna get pretty contentious over here. Yeah, if we want to refresh the people, there you go. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's gonna get ugly over here.
I don't like it. Well, I mean,
what if I walked into?
I'm not sure, Hamilton. I'm pretty sure we are going to be doing a show while Game 3 is happening.
Giving us a lot of dooms.
That's all right. Yeah.
5 out of 5 dooms.
Yeah, can confirm Game 3 of the ALDS is potentially during the show, depending on what time it airs. So if it's the night game, we are going to be I don't know if we're going to be doing the show, if I'm going to be honest. It's the bye week.
I'm just going to instigate everything.
The vibe, yeah.
Here's what we'll do, Hamilton. We will watch the show, and we will let Maddie, since it's the bye week next week, just talk about draft prospects the whole time, and we'll just sit there and just.
You just made Tucker so mad.
We'll do that. Tucker will play College Football 25. It'll be great.
I can't let that happen. See, I'll just do this here. I'll just hop in for Matt. I cannot let that happen. I'm sorry. It's too early. It's too early.
It's good. It was a good start.
We tried that. I mean, the calendar turned to October. They should let Maddie start getting off these takes. And honestly, if the Royals are playing, no one's going to be watching anyway. So, there's that. But Matthew Lane, how are you doing today?
It's October and we're still talking baseball. So that's a vibe of some kind. Besides that, I'm doing pretty good, Kent. The Chiefs are undefeated. Everything's going well. Just too much baseball talk to start this podcast. Is doing a great job of covering the Royals. They did a great job of covering the Royals, just not on the lab. Can't keep that, keep it separate. Hamilton, as always, nice to have you here. Let's get your quick thoughts on the Chiefs' victory over the Chargers. And I got a couple follow-up questions for you, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of par for the course for the start of the season. They don't look like the Chiefs were really used to seeing, but they find a way to get the win. And, obviously putting yourselves in that big of a hole early is never easy, but Mahomes, I mean, it is, I guess, for Patrick Mahomes, because he always finds a way to dig himself out of double-digit deficits. The Rashee Rice injury, obviously concerning, although maybe not as concerning as we thought. And I just really thought I was a little disappointed. Again, they're 4-0, but I was a little disappointed with all the injuries that the Chargers had, that you couldn't start fast against that team, put them away. But again, they made the plays that need to be made to get the job done. A lot of positives to take, especially with how they shut down that run game. The Chiefs' run defense has just been phenomenal this year. Really, I think if you take out their 8th right now, I think if you take out the Lamar Jackson scramble yards in the second half of that game, they're probably top 3. So again, there are a lot of encouraging things, but we got to see Mahomes start to click here at some point.
Yeah, no, that we do. And so I kind of wanted to ask a couple little questions about some things that might help that, because the Chiefs lose Rashee Rice for, as of right now, an unknown amount of time, but it does sound like it's going to at least be a significant amount of time. It seems like even best case scenario, we're probably heading to at least a short stint on IR, or, a roughly month plus, and on the good end of missed time. Do you think that the Chiefs should try to make a move for another wide receiver to come in and help this unit that at that point in time would essentially be led by rookie Xavier Worthy, who they have still struggled to use as more than just kind of a deep threat and or a gadget player at this point in time?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to think about it, especially, seeing Sky Moore getting the opportunity and that not going super well. I think
Men in
it's
Black
something,
that from my brain.
yeah. I think it's something that you definitely have to think about. And speaking of Rasheed Rice, right before the show, I just Googled to see, like, is there any update? What's the latest? I've been at practice with my high school team, and the top headline right now is Rasheed Rice. Rasheed Rice's mom accused of stealing Chapel Roan records off neighbor's porch. So that's where we
Yeah,
stand there. So
that's the Rasheed Rice news that we're all looking for when we hit up Google. Right. Yeah, Kent, welcome to the latest on Rasheed Rice is updates on his mom allegedly stealing from a neighbor's porch. All right.
No.
If the
That's
Chiefs
where we
do
are right
add a
now.
player, if the Chiefs do add a wide receiver, just give me a name. You got to put your name on the line here. Give me a name of the player that you think the Chiefs would add at the wide receiver position if they were to add one.
Oh man, that's a good question, because the guys that it seems like could be coming available on the market are teams that don't tend to like Kansas City. So obviously Devontae Adams is the biggest name. It's just impossible. I know there are a lot of people dreaming of that one. It's impossible for me to envision that Mark Davis would allow that to happen. Within the division to basically gift wrap the Chiefs a three-peat. That's a tough one to stomach. If the Bengals lose to the Ravens, does T. Higgins become an option? Are the Bengals willing to make that move? That's something I would keep an eye on. Outside of that, though, like there's so many teams that are still in it with receivers that I think would be up for grabs. Like Deontay Johnson, maybe with Cat, but I don't think they're willing to give him up. I think they like him there from everything, being at Panthers camp, talking to Dave Canal. I think they envision him as a key piece for them. So I guess I guess T. Higgins is the one that could be interesting if the Bengals lose this weekend. But again, I don't know if they're willing to ship him to Kansas City. I don't know how that's going to be received.
That would be hilarious. Just objectively hilarious. Higgins would be an interesting one just because, he is such a true outside X type guy. And it's like that would add something that Chiefs don't have a ton of. And, I don't know. Mahomes would have to start throwing a little bit more fades than he has and more back shoulder stuff than he really has. Be an interesting one. I mean, he's a guy that could actually hit the market, and it would make some sense to add a guy like that. And that would be objectively hilarious if T. Higgins finally does get a ring and it's somewhere else. But we'll see. I think it's gonna be worth monitoring. But I think it's safe to say at this point, being Wednesday, the game is on Monday, that the Kansas City Chiefs will not be making a move that will impact their offense for Monday Night Football against the New Orleans Saints. That does not seem to be something that could really even materialize, I don't think, in time for someone to be involved. So they're rolling with who they have. They're rolling with they're dancing with the girl that got them there at this point. Absent of Rasheed Rice, they're going to be rolling with this roster. And I think there's a lot of questions about what this offense could look like without Rasheed Rice, who is confirmed out for this game at least. There is some level of hope that, maybe it's not a season ender for Rasheed Rice, and we'll see what that ultimately looks like. I don't think we're going to get answers for a while here. But in the meantime, I think it's worth talking about what this offense will look like without Rasheed Rice. You've got, Xavier Worthy, you've got Travis Kelce, you've got the resurgence of Kareem Hunt looking good this week. Hopefully trying to, lead this team, I think, in this game on Monday where I think, hey, look, for the Chiefs, I think it's just get through Monday, get through with a win, and then reassess things at the bye week. The bye week in some ways might be coming at the right time, Hamilton.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, sometimes you look at these early buys as a bad thing. I think for the Chiefs, this is perfect timing. I think if there's any team in the league that needs the early buy, it's them. But yeah, there is, Kareem Hunt, as you mentioned, did look good. That was an encouraging sign. I thought, they have three running backs that are capable. And obviously that was a question, losing Pacheco, what that run game was going to look like without him. And I think they've seeing Kareem step up was a huge encouraging sign. It was also interesting, once again, as we've kind of talked about at a few points here, a key moment in that game, the big play that kind of sparked the game-winning drive, they go 13 personnel again. So I wonder if we're going to see more tight ends, a little more 13 person, because also all those tight ends are versatile and you can spread, you can stay in that personnel grouping and either condense the formation, give a heavy look, or spread those guys out. So I wonder if we start to see a lot more of that too. But I think, obviously when you're down some key pieces, you got to start getting creative, and nobody's better at it than Andy Reid.
Yeah, we've seen it all year. The Chiefs like to live in some of this heavier personnel. So, first of all, they got to find some kind of answer, right? And they've already been leaning into heavier personnel, even without Rashee Rice. But it would, I think, only make a little bit more sense to go even deeper into that well without him until you figure out what the answer is. And you are probably trying to buy one more game. You're trying to get through this game against the Saints to get to the bye week, and then you can reconfigure what this offense needs to be without Rice. And so you look at going into this game, the Chiefs are already third in the NFL in 13 personnel, how often they run 13 personnel, 11th and how often they run 12 personnel. They're pretty high up there. They already run a lot. I wouldn't be surprised to see them continue to lean into it a little bit more. The Saints particularly are pretty decent at they'll match with base pretty often when you go heavy, and they play pretty well out of it. They are good run defense out of it. They do a good job staying mostly assignment sound to stop explosive pass plays coming out of it. So I don't know if it's a massive mismatch in this game like it has been in some other games this year, but I do think it's something they might need to lean on, because then you get two of your more reliable pass catchers in Kelce and Noah Gray out there on the field, two guys that both operate in the same areas of the field that you are missing a Rashee Rice. And also the Chiefs have been really good running the ball at a 12 personnel this year. Last year, they were atrocious at it. Oddly enough, they are better passing the ball. This year, they've been really good running the ball at a 12 personnel. What they have done with their run game, getting into more of the power runs, getting more into their gap scheme stuff has gone really well. I think adding Kareem Hunt to that mix, a guy that has done a good job of making, getting a little extra yardage. It's one game, but getting more yards than was there. So that might be what this game is. This might be a little bit of a grindy game that the Chiefs try to live with a little bit heavier personnel on the field, Kent.
Absolutely. And, I think, you talk about in the run game, but also, hey, last week when Rashee Rice came out, only 3 players for the Chiefs had 4 targets or more in that game. It was Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, and Noah Gray. So Noah Gray getting, the share count was a little bit spread out thin throughout a lot of guys, but those were the 3 leading target recipients for the Chiefs in that game against the Chargers, 2 tight ends and Xavier Worthy. Talking about, utilizing heavy personnel in the linebacking core for the Saints is looking a little thin. Demario Davis, he should, his status will be certainly in question. Friend Willie Gay Jr. Had a hand injury that could potentially keep him in his status in question. And just, by the way, also Tyrann Mathieu left the game against the Saints or against the Falcons early. So I know he's not a linebacker, but there's some injuries there on the defensive side of the ball, and specifically at the linebacker position. Hey, look, you're going to stretch, you're going to test this group, and it's going to be Pete Warner and DeMarco Jackson and maybe Jalen Ford, at the linebacker spot. Keeping linebackers on the field and then trying to exploit them kind of plays into what we're talking about here, Hamilton.
Yeah, and Demario Davis had been off to a phenomenal start to the year too. It's amazing. It seems like he gets better and better every year that he's been in the league. He's a different type of dude. But yeah, that's huge if he's not there. Although the Saints did a decent job against the Falcons run game, even with all of those injuries in that linebacking core. I thought, they handled Bijan Robinson pretty well in that game and kind of kept him from breaking the game open. But it's a different thing when you're doing against the Chiefs. I think that Falcons offense is still trying to figure a lot of things out, figure out their identity. And, I think they're going to look very different 4 or 5 weeks from now than they do right now. But still, that Saints defense has been excellent this year overall. But yeah, that's going to make a huge difference if those guys aren't out there for sure.
And another layer on it is we're talking about, going heavier personnel, maybe taking a little bit of an advantage of a second level defensive unit that's got some injuries. I mean, the Saints run game this year hasn't been bad, but it's been pretty middle of the pack, right? They're kind of 17th in EPA per carry. They, given up a couple, they're middle of the pack again in rushing yards over expectation. Whereas the Chiefs, very good run game this year. Like they're, especially when you limit it to just the running backs, we're talking number 1 or number 2 in success rate per rush, depends on if it's just running backs or not, where they have now worked their way up to top 10 in EPA per rush. Like they have been a good running team this year. And I think we kind of saw it last week. It's not super dynamic. And although Kareem Hunt looks to have a little more juice than a Samaje Perine or than a Carson Steele does, but it was one game. So we'll see how it plays out. But it's the consistency that's there. Like the Chiefs, when they do lean into the run game this year, have stayed ahead of the sticks. And that's been helpful because they weren't going into last week. They hadn't been very good on third down. They had a decent week for as discombobulated as the offense looked. It was one of their better weeks on third down last week against the Chargers. And so like hopefully staying ahead of the sticks can continue that. So yeah, this might be a game where you brought Kareem Hunt back. Maybe you have to ride that horse a little bit more this game. Maybe you have to let him keep you ahead of the six, keep you in some second and third and shorts, and give Patrick Mahomes some easier looks. So not so much pressure is on him, because that is kind of the one area in this game that you, on your offense versus their defense, has, I think, a distinct advantage if you kind of start to dive into all the numbers and everything.
And so the New Orleans Saints have seen the third least amount of carries of rushing attempts in the NFL to this point. Now they're averaging
blowing teams out.
Yeah, because they're blowing teams out. It's the game script. They blew out the Panthers. They blew out Dallas. Philly, close game. Atlanta, close game. But they've seen the third fewest amount of carries in the NFL to this point. But they've given up the 7th most yards per carry in the NFL to this point. I think this will be an interesting, to your point, Hamilton looked better against Atlanta there. Is that more representative of what they are going to be as a unit on, from that perspective? But yeah, I think Kareem Hunt is the guy that you turn around and you hand the football to. I think he's your lead back for this game. I think you ride the hot hand, as Andy said, and I think you start with him as the hot hand and see what happens from there. So I'd turn around and hand the football a little bit more to Kareem Hunt. And I think that helps take off the pressure of how do you try to replace in the aggregate a player in Rashee Rice, who was going to be, like Maddie Lane talked about, a target monster for this team, a guy that was going to have the offense funnel through him, see a lot of targets. You've got to find ways to, account for 9 targets in a game. Travis Kelce can handle it. Xavier Worthy, maybe try to get him involved a little bit more. And I think they were in the process of doing that in that game with some more of the manufactured stuff. They're trying to throw some of those screens and those sprint out route that they ran on third down are plays that they've typically used Rashee Rice for. So, maybe just turning it around and handing the football to Kareem Hunt a little bit more can also just lighten the load a little bit for this offense as they're trying to balance some things out. I think all the things we've talked about to this point kind of play together, right? It's heavier personnel, running the football. These are all things I think you can piece together to make an effective offense. What are your expectations for Xavier Worthy in this game, though? This is, he's clearly the best receiver on the team at this point that is available to play. He's still a rookie. He's, to this point, had a very defined role, but this is an opportunity for him to see a expanded role. Do you think that we get a more diverse version of Xavier Worthy in his 5th game in the NFL, Hamilton?
I do. I think it's it's kind of by necessity at this point that we're going to have to see them expand it a little bit with him, and it is going to be an interesting matchup because the Saints secondary, you look at the overall numbers, because again they've built these big leads, they've given up a lot of passing yards, but they're kind of middle of the pack as far as efficiency numbers. But they do have some good players back there. Obviously, the Tyrann Mathieu injury is going to be something we really have to watch. Because if he's out, I think we could be looking at some big plays over the top against the safety group. But Marshawn Lattimore obviously still there. He's been phenomenal so far. And then obviously Paulson Adebo has really stepped up over the last couple of years too. I don't know if he's quite a household name yet, but he's played really well. So they have some good corners there. It's going to be interesting to see how they decide to play Worthy too. Obviously, we've seen teams want to be physical with him off the line. So Andy's going to have to move him around a lot, which we've seen, and he's done a good job of moving him around. But there are opportunities, especially if Matthew's out, I think, for some big plays in this game. And I think, again, especially if they establish this physical identity with the heavier personnel, leaning on Kareem Hunt more and more, you get those safeties creeping up a little bit and then take your shot with Worthy. I mean, you saw just how he can, change a game in an instant on Sunday. So when you have a guy that has the kind of ability, it's kind of the perfect honestly, he's kind of the perfect complement to what we're talking about and how we think they're going to play, going a little bit heavier personnel, a little more smash mouth football.
I think this game's like a great litmus test for Worthy and the Chiefs, how they're going to use them. Because you're right, this Saints secondary, especially the corners, have talented guys, and they're all guys that will be very physical. Adebo, Alante Taylor, Kool-Aid McKinstry's getting reps in there, and then it's still Lattimore. Like all these guys will get really physical with a wide receiver. But they'll also get so physical that they will get themselves in foot races from time to time. And I don't think any of those guys, Lattimore is the only guy there that has true speed. And at this point in his career, I don't know if it's the same as what it was a couple years back. So there might be some opportunities for Worthy to, if he can beat the press or if he can beat the physicality, really, get behind some of these guys. And this kind of leads me to a point. The Saints play a lot of single high coverage, right? They're looking at cover 3, their cover 3 and cover 1 rates, combined is 53%. That's pretty high in today's NFL to be going single high over half roughly half your snaps. That's a good bit. So are they going to keep that up against the Chiefs? Most teams in the past wouldn't. But when you're looking at this Chiefs roster right now and just all the ways they can attack you, are you maybe more willing to throw guys in the box? Maybe you're willing to challenge the Chiefs in the run game, especially if they're going heavier personnel. So how's that battle going to go? If the Saints are going single high, you're going to have to make them pay. You're going to have to take some shots, I think, downfield with Worthy, with Justin Watson, who's still a solid vertical receiver at times. He probably is better to handle some of the physicality if Worthy's not able to get off of it. It's that's where I kind of got my eyes set, is just how the Saints want to play. Are they going to stick to the single high stuff? We were looking at it. Patrick Mahomes is kind of down versus single high this year. I think Matt Hamilton was telling me that I asked him to look at it, and 0.08 EPA per throw per drop back against single high. That's not great. It's not terrible, but that's definitely not great. And when you look at a guy that has historically dominated single high coverage when he's seen it in the NFL, that's a pretty big step back. Now, and that's when they had Rashee Rice, and they still had Travis because they had all their pieces and they weren't doing great. So we'll just kind of have to see how that goes. But I do think this is one of the weeks where you might get some favorable looks to really challenge the ball, throwing the ball downfield. So hopefully they can hit some.
Let's move on. Go Hamilton.
No, you guys. I just want to say, and you kind of hit Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen is, whatever you want to say about him as head coach, defensively, he's going to be aggressive. He's going to challenge you. It's not really in his identity to sit back and say, oh, we're scared of Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be physical, they're going to be aggressive, but with that obviously comes that big play opportunity in a way that you might not see against other teams, because I think a lot of other defenses do kind of play a little bit scared against this offense.
All right, players to watch on the offensive side of the football, presented by Tickets for Less. Hamilton, what you got?
I'm gonna go with Noah Gray, kind of in concert with what we've been talking about. We saw him make what I thought was the most significant play of that game in the fourth quarter, and I do think we are going to see a lot more heavy personnel, and I think with that we're going to see him get some more opportunities. Again, it's not going to be, he's never going to fill up the box score necessarily, but he makes these impactful plays, and I think we're going to see him do it again.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one, especially if the Chiefs have to play the way we think they do. He's the guy that's doing it.
Yeah.
I'm taking the low-hanging fruit here. Give me Wanya Morris and all of the Chiefs' offensive line, but give me Wanya Morris, but specifically because Carl Granderson, Saints defensive end, has been on a tear this year. I think he's clearly peaking as a player. He's been coming on. He's been getting better each and every year, but he's playing excellent football right now. And I think the biggest thing to me is the way he rushes is a little similar to Cherry Hendrickson. I don't think they're the same type player. It's not like a comp, but I think the way he rushes is kind of similar. He's going to use his hands a lot, but there's going to be a power element to where if you're caught lacking, he's going to push you back into the quarterback's lap. And we know how that went in week 2 against the Cincinnati Bengals. It kind of stopped how the offense can function. They couldn't run their offense with how bad their left tackle was getting beat. So now Wanya Morris is stepping into that role. Can he do a better job, in this matchup? I think Morris has been pretty good in his 2, since he has been taking over. He has been fine. He hasn't been an issue. He's still going to lose some. I'm not saying he has to pitch a shutout. Just can he be good enough that the offense can function at whatever level that they want to? Because that was not the case earlier this season before Morris took over. So I think that's a big matchup here, is the Granderson versus Wanya Morris.
I'm going.
That's a great. Oh, sorry. I was on that's a great call because Granderson, I think I don't think he gets enough credit yet. I think he's emerged as one of the better edge rushers in the league, and he's, as you say, he's so powerful. He can beat you so many different ways, and it seems like year after year after year, he just gets more in his toolkit, more ways to beat you. So love that one.
He caught a nice little contract from the New Orleans Saints recently, and I think some people were surprised by it. But like, yeah, he's had a good start to the season.
They saw Hendrickson leave for that price, and then like, oh, we can't lose the next guy. We got to make sure we sign the next one.
Yeah.
Give me the entire tight end room. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Right.
Besides Noah Gray, that's already taken. He's off the board.
I'm doing the entire. No, just let me finish, please. I want to just see I just want to see like utilization of 12, 13 personnel. I want to see how much they lean into it. I want to see how much they get them involved. And it extends to the entirety of the room. So like it's including Jared Wiley, because Jared Wiley is a guy that there was a lot of optimism for early in the season. Hasn't really materialized all too well to this moment, but it's early in the season. It's 4 weeks in. It's hard for tight ends to make that transition to the National Football League. And I'm just fascinated to see how they get this entire group involved, how much they're playing, how often all three of their tight ends are actually on the field. So that's kind of what I'm paying attention to as a broad theme for this. We leaned into a little bit earlier with discussion, but that's what, that's something that's of great interest to me. It's, it's more about what personnel grouping on the field is necessarily than it is any individual player. I do think Noah Gray will be someone that gets involved a lot more, though, to your point. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Thanks, everyone, hanging out with us today here on the KC Laboratory. It is a Wednesday. That means it's a Matter Day, and we are having a great time here getting you ready for Chiefs Saints on Monday Night Football. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, this is a group that has a little bit more pressure on them now because of the status of the offense. The Chiefs found a formula last year where they leaned on a very good defense, and last season, and that helped them. It bought them time to figure things out offensively and find something that would work for them. During the playoff stretch, things finally came together, but they needed that defense in a big, big way. They needed the defense in a big, big way against the Los Angeles Chargers, hobbled or not, and they took care of business, even though that offense was certainly hampered when they were playing. But I think the pressure is still on this group, even though it may not quite be the same group it was last year. It's still a very good defense. They are proving that. And they're going to have to kind of do some heavy lifting, I think, for the foreseeable future, Hamilton.
Yeah, I think they are. And this is an interesting offense that they're going to be faced with. I know we've talked about Derek Carr off air a little bit and our opinions of him and, some of the things we've seen out of him. But you look at what Clint Kubiak has done with this group, and it's really interesting. I mean, there's a lot of eye candy. They throw a lot of different looks at you. The Taysom Hill injury is going to be a big one to watch. I think him going out of that Falcons game totally screwed them up. He was such a huge part of that game plan, and everything they were doing with him was working. It was a weird game against the Falcons too. I thought they really outplayed Atlanta, and it was a matter of a tip ball that goes for a pick six and a muffed punt that turns into a touchdown. And even still, they take the lead and then give it right back to Kirk at the end of the game. But I thought, they had a little bit of bad luck in that game. But what Kubiak is doing is, is such a huge departure from anything we've seen from the Saints years ago, from what Pete Carmichael did there. And as I said, like, you're going to see Rashid Shaheed in the backfield at tailback. You're going to see Taysom Hill at fullback, at tailback if he's healthy. They're really using him in the power run game a bunch, which is bizarre, but again, it's been working. Nobody's run the ball this year more than the Saints. And they've thrown it the second fewest times. It's really, they're taking the ball out of Derek Carr's hands a lot. I think against Philly a little bit too much. There was a stretch where they ran it 7 plays in a row and had to punt once and got stopped, turnover on downs on the other possession where they did that. So I think, we're going to need to see them put a little bit more on Derek Carr, which I think Chiefs fans are probably happy to hear. But it's just I'm interested to see how this thing evolves, because it is so fascinating. I've never seen an offense like this, where it's almost like this positionless attack. Everyone will line up kind of everywhere across the board. But again, the primary thing is stopping the run. Know where Alvin Kamara is at all times in that scenario, and keep eyes on him, because he's having a resurgence this year, and he's very much the engine that makes this thing go.
And they're so difficult, I guess, to defend, because yes, it is very dependent on the run game. They get the run game going, and then, like any team coming with a similar offense, they're high up in the amount of play action passing they're doing. Like, their percentage of plays that go play action are they're 5th in the NFL this year. So it's just a ton of play action. So it makes it hard to completely sell out and stop the run, because then you have to be completely aware of what they're trying to do up over the top. And that's how they were kind of blowing the brakes off teams to start games earlier this year. It was just, they were hitting a couple deep shots right off the get-go, and a lot of it was coming off play action. And then as soon as they get up a couple points, you spot this team a 2-score lead. And I know maybe the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes are like the one team that this doesn't matter against, but like, generally speaking, you spot a team like this, a double-digit point lead, it's really hard to defend them, because now they can just keep running the ball and you have to stop them. And the moment they get the look that they want, it becomes another deep shot off of play action, and it really kind of snowballs. And I think you did see that earlier this year in a couple of their big, offensive performances. I also think you've seen when teams have been able to, I guess, play top down against the play action, been able to really limit what Derek Carr can do. And especially if you can heat him up a little bit, he's still the same Derek Carr under pressure that he's always been. And then you make them one-dimensional. You make them essentially a run-only team. And the Chiefs have been excellent versus the run this year. So it's going to be a fascinating chess match of, I think, what both of these teams do well on these two sides of the ball kind of match up against one another. Like, it'll be interesting to see who wins that. I am a little nervous, though. We've seen the Chiefs get beat off play action so far, but it's been 7-yard out routes to tight ends. It's been the running back coming out to the flat. We haven't necessarily seen too oftentimes guys get behind all the defensive backs. The Saints are a team that's going to test that theory. They're going to try to get deep off play action. So we'll kind of see if the bend don't break nature can hold up in this kind of game plan or not.
Yeah, the Chiefs are typically pretty good at eliminating explosive plays, and that's something that they've been pretty good about historically with Steve Spagnuolo. And one of the things that has been a hallmark of the wins from the New Orleans Saints has been, the vertical passing game to Rashid Shaheed. He has touchdowns of 59 and 70 yards, or he's had big explosive plays in the 2 wins. Last 2 weeks against Philly, 0 catches, 5 targets. He was kept at bay against the Atlanta Falcons. They tried to get him involved a little bit more. 8 catches, 83 yards, 10.4 yards per reception. The long was 25 yards. Try to get him on some carries too. Like, they're really trying to funnel and get some opportunities to get him involved after getting shut out the week prior. But I think we talked last week about earning the right to rush the passer, and the early down success for the Chiefs against the Chargers was, I think, very important in how they were able to manage that game, let Spags get into his bag a little bit. And I think that's going to be equally important against the New Orleans Saints, is that early down run success. So you can keep them out of some of this, some of the play action stuff. You can try to, make them play behind the sticks a little bit more. You need this team to be playing behind the sticks so you can do the things that keep Derek Carr up at night when he's playing Steve Spagnuolo. And so that's going to be, I think, the same thing again, like to your point. I think, yeah, it's absolutely, you're going to see this, this group tested vertically. Like, they're going to try it. They have to try it.
Yeah.
they've got to continue to at least take shots down the field. Rashid Shaheed's had some success early in the season. You got to eliminate that as best you can. And that will be fascinating to see if this secondary can turn and run with them.
Yeah, and even in that Eagles game that you mentioned, there were a couple plays that were there that they didn't connect on too. If you fall asleep for a second, that Shaheed, the level of speed that he brings to the game is there's only a few guys like that in this league, and it's all it takes is one play. Again, like we talked about with Worthy, all it takes is one play, and he can turn a game on its head. And again, it's about Derek Carr getting the ball there.
I was muted. I think a big thing here, the Chiefs like to do this against teams that are run heavy, and we saw it kind of in the second half of the Falcons game. They really like to send their linebackers on run blitzes, and whether even they might even just have it like a little read key on it, but they'll be coming. You can watch Nick Bolton, you can watch Drew Tranquil. When they think it even might be a run, these guys are triggering downhill, and if they get a free path to the quarterback, they're just going to take it if it's play action or whatever. And if not, if they are getting picked up, then they'll just drop back out and play a little bit of a zone. Like they kind of give that little read there on it, and so I wouldn't be surprised to see them come out and do that right away. Like when you can heat up Derek Carr, you can get him off his game. And Derek Carr is one of those quarterbacks. You heat him up a little bit early. You make him feel uncomfortable early in the game. That's going to carry over through the majority of the game. Like it takes him a little bit to get back under control, back in rhythm. And while this offense has been very good, I don't know if they've done a great job building up Derek, like the rhythm for Carr, right? It's been like of coming off play action, these deep shots when they're there and they're hitting, it's great. But if that gets taken away, or if they start a little slow, do they have the quick hitting, the quick game to get him going and starting to feel comfortable again? So this might be one of those games where you see, I mean, if we're counting these kind of run blitzes, you might get the Chiefs blitz percentage up near 50%. I mean, even higher. Just there's no harm comes from, I think, trying to heat up Derek Carr at this point in time, because we have seen when he's comfortable, Derek Carr can play very good quarterback. He can play quarterback very well. The Chiefs have even seen that. He has beaten them before when he's felt comfortable. So I think a lot of blitzes in this game, whether it's exotic stuff or just simply sending your linebackers right up the middle, and then you're moving Chris Jones around and you're getting him the matchup against Trevor Penning. You're getting him the matchup against Eric McCoy's backup. Is it Lemieux who's having to come in now and play center because McCoy is hurt? Like, yeah, they have options for Chris Jones to get great one-on-one looks. If you can scheme those up with some of these extra blitzes, even if they are just preparing for the run, I think that might be kind of your like avenue to slow down the passing game, even the play action passing attack here.
Cesar Ruiz going to be in question too. Like, so the Saints started hot. They looked terrifying. They've lost the last two football games, and now they're kind of starting to deal with injuries on both sides of the football, and like the interior offensive line, seeing some injuries there. Taysom Hill, you're talking about leaving the game early with rib injury. A.T. Perry is out. Things are definitely getting a little bit thin for that group. So like that is going to be one of the challenges for them. But yeah, I think this could be a little bit of, Steve Spagnuolo. This is a great game for some Steve Spagnuolo randomness too, to your pot. Like just, hey, some random calls, some random blitz calls, maybe when you're not expecting them or when they're not, not typical, right? Let's just get a little bit weird here in when we throw extra bodies at Derek Carr, because I do think just simply adding to the math can really affect him. And you're right, keeping him out of a rhythm, is a key factor in trying to just disrupt this Saints offense. Don't let him find any kind of rhythm at all, and good things will happen. Maddie Lane, anything on the defensive side of the ball that you wanted to talk about?
I mean, I think we kind of covered the majority of it. I do think the Saints play, like we talked about the Chiefs, the Saints are another team that play a lot of heavy personnel. Now, without Taysom Hill, I'm intrigued to see what impact that has, right? Without getting Taysom Hill to put him in there as a tight end or a H-back or whatever that you want to call him on that play, what does it look like? But they also go with a lot of heavier personnel. So I assume you're going to get a pretty big dose of Leo Chenal this week. Last time we thought this was coming was the Falcons game, when he actually didn't play a ton because the Falcons, they stayed out of their heavier personnel, whether by design or they saw something they wanted. So this might be a game where we get a lot of Chenal reps. I think that's big. Like, I think he is one of their better run defenders, and we're talking about mixing things up. We're talking about being a little surprising with the things that you do. I think Leo gives you a lot of opportunities there. So I am curious if the Saints stick to, going a lot of 12, 21 personnel and stuff like that, and how the Chiefs match. If they stick to base, do they go nickel to protect the deep ball? Like, just what is their plan of attack going to be when they get those looks, Hamilton?
Yeah, and I do think we see the Saints kind of stick with what they've been doing so far. I think, I think that's there. I think they've established an identity. As we said, I do think they have to at some point, as you kind of mentioned, like they got to try to get Derek Carr in some type of a rhythm and let him do something other than just this play action passing game and open things up a little bit more. But I think they can do it. That's the with those same personnel groupings. That's the thing about the versatility of, again, we'll see what happens with Taysom, but even Kamara can line him up out wide at receiver and he can run routes. So there's a lot of different things they can do out of those same personnel groupings. But yeah, the offensive line issue is, I think, a huge, huge deal here, because I think that was such a big part of their early season success. They were thriving. I mean, Fuaga is looking like an incredible pick so far. He's been great. And you get those injuries. I mean, I think those offensive line injuries affect you more than anything else. It's hard to cover those up because the quality of play dips so much. And especially when your identity is running the football more than anybody else in the entire NFL, it really changes things. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. And as you said, too, I think we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, the Chiefs' pass defense has been at its best when those blitzes have been coming too. And we saw it again against the Chargers. In some of those key situations, they brought the pressure and it paid off. And I think, I'd be shocked if we didn't see that again, especially given what's going on with the offensive line and given Derek Carr's MO when it comes to dealing with pressure.
All right, let's move on to players to watch presented by Tickets for Less. Remember, promo code KCSN gets you the best available discount on your Chiefs tickets when you use promo code KCSN. The best available promo code defaults to KCSN. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. Hamilton, give me your defensive player to watch for the Chiefs.
I'm looking at these safeties. I think it's going to come down to Reed and Cook not getting lulled to sleep or not biting, paying too much attention to the eye candy that's going on in the backfield and staying disciplined, because the type of game I think this is going to be with where these two teams are right now, it's going to come down to one or two plays. And if, as we talked about with Shaheed and what he can do getting behind the defense, and let's not forget Chris Olave either, you fall asleep or are undisciplined on one play against this offense, they are going to make you pay and take advantage. And again, with the Chiefs' offensive issues that are going on, that could end up being the difference in this whole thing. If the Chiefs avoid giving up the big play, they'll win this game. But this is a scary team when it comes to generating big plays because of what they've shown so far.
In my player to watch is going to be in the same vein. I'm going Trent McDuffie here. So Trent McDuffie's playing excellent football this year. The Chiefs have often matched him up against the opponent's, best wide receiver. But when you start moving guys in and out of the slot all over the field, that gets a little bit trickier. Well, here's the thing. The Saints, we talked about, like to play a lot of heavy personnel. That means they only have two wide receivers on the field a lot. Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave both have a 22.4% target share, right? They both have, that's essentially 50% of the targets are going to those wide receivers. That means on any given play, Trent McDuffie is likely to be on a player that is highly likely to get a football, to get a pass. That doesn't happen often for him. So is this the game where we finally see McDuffie come up with an interception just because he's challenged? Like, I don't know. I think that he's been up to all the tests this year. I think this will be the most vertical passing attack test that he is going to have seen so far. And not that I question his long speed or anything, but we have seen some incidents where he has struggled to track the ball vertically over his shoulder, where the lack of length has shown up downfield. So not saying that'll be this game. I just wonder if he might get a few more opportunities to make a play on the football in this game, given the opponent he's going up against and how easy it is to say, I bet one of those two guys is going to get the football. I now have a 50% chance to, stop that.
So a hobbled interior offensive line. Going to have to pay a lot of attention to Chris Jones. I'm not going to go Chris Jones. I'm just going to go ahead and go Turk Wharton instead. Look, if you're going to have to try and pay a lot of attention to keep Chris Jones from wrecking the game, that should give Tershawn Wharton some opportunities along the interior to get some one-on-ones and continue to do what he's done for the first 4 games of the season. That's wreck things. He's been a very disruptive player. He's having a fantastic season coming back. Coming back from injury this year, he seems a lot more like himself than he, from pre-injury than he did last year. And this is the best season he's had. This is really a contract year for Tershawn Wharton, a big opportunity for him, to try to get a payday after this year. And he is playing like someone that is definitely warranting a nice little payday here. He's playing great early on in the season. And I think this is a chance for him to get some one-on-ones against backup interior offensive linemen, because Chris Jones will demand so much attention. Give Tershawn Wharton some opportunities to go up there and wreak havoc. Derek Carr will not like that. Promise you that. Those quick wins along the interior give Derek Carr fits more than anything. Yes, the blitzes do, but sometimes those pure quick wins, he just doesn't have great answers for. He doesn't have the agility to be able to kind of escape those. He doesn't have the problem solving. He doesn't typically have easy outlets ready for it. And he'll burn them. He'll just burn plays. He will. He's quick to burn plays, different than a lot of other quarterbacks because of the lack of mobility. So give me Tershawn Wharton blowing some stuff up along the interior of the Saints offensive line. Game prediction time. Hamilton, what you got?
I do think this is going to be a little lower scoring. The Saints offensive line injuries, or the Taysom Hill injury, worries me. I think we see Chiefs 20-14 in this one.
Oh, my bad, Kent. I think low scoring makes sense, right? I mean, the Chiefs are coming out. We're losing Rashee Rice. We're trying to figure out what's going on with this offense. Is Kareem Hunt going to be able to carry the load for a second game in a row? The defense has been taking on a lot of the burden. Are they going to continue to be able to do it? So I think a lot of things stack up to this being another relatively ugly, gross Chiefs game that comes down to the wire. And I'm not trying to pull a fast one this time. I do think that's the way this game's going to go. It's going to be lower scoring. I don't think it's going to be a pretty watch. You just kind of have to hope that you trust Steve Spagnuolo to throw enough at the Saints offense and Derek Carr to slow them down. You have to hope that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have enough answers without Rice on, I don't want to say a short week, but on a quick turnaround to readjust your offense. I'm going to take the Chiefs winning this one 23-18, but it's going to be not a super fun game to watch as Chiefs fans. And you go into the bye week undefeated and you come out and hope to feel better on the other side.
We got some problems here. Let's Chiefs
go.
Will be playing the Saints during the ALDS against the New York Yankees. So I think I'm going to have to predict both games. So first off, the game that starts first, I think the Royals, I think Cole Reagan's strikes out Aaron Judge twice. Bobby hits a bomb. Salvi hits a bomb. 5-3 Royals beat the Yankees in the Bronx. Sorry, Hamilton. I think there's not very many more points scored in Chiefs Saints other than 5-3. I think it's going to be another ugly game. I really do. I'm with you guys. I think this thing is going to be, there's going to be struggles offensively. There's going to be a few good moments here or there. You're going to like a couple of the things you see, but it's still going to just leave you something to be desired, and you're going to have something to complain about, and you're going to say, oh man, the Chiefs probably need to get somebody back. Hopefully Rashee Rice is back by November, and hopefully they can slog through this season and get him back and then hit all strides when Hollywood Brown comes back for the playoffs. But I think you're going to be wanting another pass catcher after this game, and the Chiefs will have some time to assess. I think they scored 21 points. I think the New Orleans Saints only score 16. So I think it's another ugly win for the Kansas City Chiefs, who moved to 5-0 and then start assessing their situation from there with the bye week kind of coming at a perfect time. But hey, only undefeated team remaining in the AFC heading into the bye week. Can't really complain all that much. That's going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
As we all know, the bye week is